Everyone in the gaming space knows about Elden Ring, especially since it won Game of the Year, but personally, I didn't see the hype about it when it released in 2022. Yeah, everyone talked about Elden Ring and how cool the bosses were. It was everywhere, people were streaming it, making videos about it, and making threads about it on Reddit. I personally didn't get the hype because I never played a Souls game before. Frankly, I was kind of scared of even trying a Souls game since there have been a lot of videos and clips of people raging in those types of games. I personally like to have fun with games and thought I would never cover a game like this. For the most part, I probably would have stayed like that until I watched some of my favorite streamers played it, like Ninali, Crimson Blades, and Nushindoza, just to name a few. I'm not gonna lie, watching them play the game felt daunting. Heck, I was nervous watching them face big crazy bosses and getting their butts whooped. I personally could never picture myself playing Elden Ring. I already have bad luck as it is with games. I can't imagine facing a boss for hours and getting killed over and over. Some of you may ask why not. It would make excellent content as a creator and it would help with growing your channel. And I would usually agree, but honestly, I was afraid because usually I like to be as family friendly as possible and I don't want people to see me get angry or upset or just start cussing out of the blue. I've played games on hard difficulty before, but nothing I've ever played would be able to help me in Elden Ring, but slowly the idea of playing Elden Ring would start creeping into my head, especially since streamers I enjoyed were starting to get good at the game. I started enjoying watching with chat and getting hyped when my favorite streamers started beating bosses that had two phases. I finally decided after beating Tears of the Kingdom that I would play Elden Ring. Unfortunately, my schedule for 2023 was full at the time, so I decided to push it to 2024. About a month before I would play Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree was announced, so the hype for the game was even more real with many people coming back to play Elden Ring. I was nervous to play Elden Ring because I just thought I'm going to be the worst player ever. I started up the game on my PC and the main menu alone blew me away with the opening theme. It was one of the best and most epic openings I have ever heard. I knew from right there that this was going to be an experience like no other. After creating my character, we got a great cutscene explaining the setting of Elden Ring and the purpose of becoming the Elden Lord.
The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. For a chieftain of the Badlands. The ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion. The loathsome dung-eater. And Sir Gideon Othmere, the all-knowing. And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown. Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring. And become the Elden Lord.
I knew this game would be challenging, but the level I expected was way different than when I was experiencing the game. Once I got out of the tutorial area and stepped into Limgrave, I knew this world would be way bigger than I thought. Just the scenery alone was captivating enough. There was this beautiful, depressing scenery. The world of Elden Ring was harsh, but it needed to be that way in order for us to gain runes and become strong enough to take the mantle of Elden Lord. We had lots to explore, and with our friend and trusted steed Torrent on our side, there was no place off limit to us. Every area from Limgrave to Mogwyn Palace had beautiful sceneries and challenging enemies. There was weapons and loot of all kind that would aid us in the battles against overwhelming enemies, bosses, and areas to explore. Elden Ring gave me plenty of areas to explore since I have always loved exploring big vast open worlds. There were so many items around that told the story of how the Elden Ring was broken, the murder of Godwyn the Golden, the battle of the demigods that ravaged the lands between, and the outer gods who were witnessing the events of the game. It was our duty as the Tarnished to bring back order to the chaos that Queen Marika had unleashed. I personally really loved exploring hidden underground catacombs because they were not only challenging to traverse, but the aesthetic reminded me a lot of old Gothic cathedrals with a boss at the center and sometimes a hidden boss to defeat. Every area I explored was a testament to how much care and detail FromSoftware put into this game. Each area had its own challenge, but it also shows the devastation that has been caused from the Elden Ring being broken. Every side character you meet has their own agenda and purpose. For example, there are some that wish to restore the Golden Order, others that wish for everything to burn with the frenzy flames, and yet others are seeking to free the lands between from the gods. Every area had different enemy types. Some were strong mini-bosses, other enemies would overwhelm you with numbers, and some enemies were capable of using magic against you. I really love how Elden Ring encourages you to explore and find sites of grace. This is not only how you would save the game, but it's also where you can spend your runes to get stronger and upgrade your flask. Sometimes Melina, who was your maiden, if you accepted her, would show up and give us dialogues about the surrounding areas. I also loved when you would be invaded by NPC invaders or sometimes real players who were also tarnished and seeking to become Elden Lord. Defeating these invaders would give you access to cool new items like weapons, crafting materials, or runes you could use to become stronger. One thing I would give Elden Ring praise for was their leveling system. I know for Souls players this mechanic is not really a game changer, but for someone like me who has never experienced a Souls game, this was revolutionary. Depending on how many runes you had, you could upgrade your attributes and skills. There was vigor, mind, strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith, and arcane. Depending on what skills you invested in, you could use certain weapons, spells, or incantations for your build, but you were never locked into just one build. You could always become proficient in whatever skills you wanted, which was a cool touch. I personally was a faith and strength user. There were so many bosses in the game. I believe there are about 238 bosses in the main game alone, and 34 bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree. Each boss was different, and some were easier than others depending on how you upgraded your skills and the weapons you used against them. For example, when I started, I had a sword and a shield, but slowly as I progressed, I became a dual wielder with two great swords, the Blasphemous Blade and the Sword of Milos, along with my incantations. I really love fighting the bosses in Elden Ring. Each of them was challenging in their own ways. Every time I fought a boss, I felt I was personally fighting a part of myself and some would wreck me many times, but slowly with every battle I began to learn the way they moved and how to find openings to unleash devastating attacks. With every death I got closer to winning, and once I locked in, it was over for the boss. One of the hardest boss fights I personally struggled with was the Crucible Knights duel. Oh my god, did that boss battle push me to the edge. I was angry, but I had to channel that anger into defeating them. The moment I defeated them, it was like huge weights had been lifted from my shoulders. That is one thing I really loved about Elden Ring. Just when you feel you're about to give up, it pushes you to look deep within yourself and channel all your fury and rage until you win. I personally was afraid I would just end up raging and quitting the game like so many others I have seen, but thankfully I was able to not let my anger and frustrations get out of hand. There were moments when I fought bosses that I held my breath to focus on my attacks, and I would forget to breathe until I defeated the boss or was killed. Some people in chat worried about my tactics, but it's what worked for me. As I stated earlier, Elden Ring was my first Souls game, and I had no idea what to expect. This game was full of surprising moments and humbling ones as well. Now, for those of you who are worried about fighting bosses in Elden Ring, the game does give you the ability to summon Spirit Ashes, which are warriors that will fight alongside you during boss fights. I used them plenty of times, but just because you have a Spirit Ash doesn't mean you will automatically win the fight against bosses. The Spirit Ashes can help you, but they can also perish in battle. The Spirit Ashes also vary, with some being powerful, others are quick, and some are quite weak. Now, I know some people in the Souls community like to call people weak or not real players when they use summons, but Hidetaka Miyazaki put them in the game to help players, and even he uses them to play Elden Ring. That is one thing I don't like about any community being toxic, because players use certain tools or items that were provided in the game to beat the game. I personally use every tool available to me to level up my character, weapons, and skills. I knew going into this game that every area would be challenging, and even though I got stronger, so did the bosses. For example, one of the most epic bosses in Elden Ring was Millennia Blade of Mikola. She put me through the ringer. Even with my weapons fully maxed, she pushed me to the edge. It took many tries to defeat her. Even when I used my Mimic Tear, she would always cut me down with her waterfowl dance. I got excited when I finally beat our first phase, only to realize she had a phase 2, and she was even more deadly as the goddess of rot. Eventually I beat her, but with every defeat she made me rethink my strategy in order to adapt, survive, and eventually defeat her. I truly believe every gamer, no matter your skill, should at least give Elden Ring a try, because it will teach you not only humility, but it will also make you a better gamer. I love Elden Ring for filling me full of emotions, from sorrow to frustration. Every battle and every area forged me, as they say in the community, to get good. I'm very lucky my community was very supportive of watching me play Elden Ring. Some even said I was doing way better at Elden Ring than I did with Zelda, which was both awesome and painful to hear. I personally felt connected to Elden Ring because it was teaching me lessons I learned throughout my life, but in the game. It reminded me to persevere no matter the circumstance and to keep pushing even when things get rough. Eventually, after more than 100 hours into the game, I would burn the Erdtree and come face to face with my destiny of becoming the Elden Lord. There were only a few bosses in my way from taking the throne, and I wasn't gonna let Melina's sacrifice be in vain. The sights of grace all pointed to Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, and he put up a good fight, and when I defeated him, slowly did I realize that the sights of grace were actually pointing towards me. Then I walked into the Erdtree itself, only to come face to face with Radagon of the Golden Order, and the most epic theme played. This was it. I had to beat Radagon to conquer Elden Ring. I beat Radagon, but it wasn't the end. Now I had to face the true form of the Elden Ring, the Elden Beast. It was a hard battle, but the god eventually fell to my blades. Now, Elden Ring has a total of 6 endings depending on the choices and quests you undertook to get to the throne of the Elden Ring. I personally chose the Age of the Stars ending. I know some people may disagree with this, but for me, this was the best ending to the game because it would set the people of the lands between free from any influence from the gods or the Golden Order. After I beat the main game, I trained for Shadow of the Erdtree since it had not yet been released. I knew that making my character stronger would not give me an edge, but it would definitely help since Shadow of the Erdtree was going to have a completely different leveling system. Now, Shadow of the Erdtree was way harder than the main game, but it was not going to be as long as the main game. There were still many areas to explore and new bosses to defeat, which were stronger and harder than the bosses in the main game. In order to have a chance to beat this expansion, you had to collect Tree fragments and revered Spirit Ashes to make yourself stronger, as well as level up your Spirit Ashes. There were many strong foes in this game, and even the regular enemies could give you a hard time if you didn't use or had a low number of fragments. The Land of Shadow had many new challenges and bosses that would test your skills and patience. Some of my favorite bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree were R'hllana, Messmer, and Radahn. Shadow of the Erdtree was a love letter not only to Elden Ring, but also to the previous Souls games. I loved exploring every new area and defeating all the bosses. Every boss challenged me in different ways, but I got strong until I came face to face with Miquella and his promised consort Radahn. This fight was both epic and legendary. I died many times and had to use a whole new set of weapons, armor, talismans, and incantations to defeat Radahn. It took me over 3 hours to defeat Radahn, and both my character and I were tired, angry, and hurt. With every loss we took, we learned how to get stronger. Eventually I was able to defeat them through skills, tactic, luck, and sheer willpower. At long last, I had truly beaten everything Elden Ring had to offer. That final battle was straight out of anime. It felt like when Satoru Gojo fought Toji Fushiguro in Jujutsu Kaisen. Elden Ring put me through hell, but I've already been through hell, so it was like I had to walk through it again. But this time I wasn't alone. I had my community with me, and their hearts burned just as bright as mine. As I stated before, I believe everyone should experience Elden Ring. It will truly build your character as a gamer and as a person. If I had to rate this game, it's definitely a 10 out of 10. This game is a pure cinematic masterpiece. Everything from the gameplay, settings, and beautifully crafted story show what game developers can do. This game transcends anything I have ever experienced up to this point. I would like to cover more Souls games in the future, and the one I have my sights on currently is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. I'm thankful to Hidetaka Miyazaki, George R.R. Martin, and everyone who works at FromSoftware for making such a legendary game. I would never look at gaming the same thanks to Elden Ring. I'm also thankful to my community for being there with me. Every victory we had was all thanks to you. And also I'm thankful to the other creators who inspired me to take on this journey. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below with your favorite moment from Elden Ring. You can also become a member to get exclusive behind the scenes updates on videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.